Welcome back, it's Zion from Uke On Demand, and this week we're going over the Irish Rover. And in the song you just heard, I was using a low G ukulele, but we also have a high G arrangement available for members of ukeondemand.com. So to begin, the first bar, played slowly, will sound like this. And to do that section right there, we're going to start off with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of E. We're going to pick that once and pull off to the open E. After that, we are going to pick the G string and the C string together. Now this is where the first difference would come if you had the high G arrangement versus the low G arrangement. If you have a high G ukulele, you would just pick that open C string by itself. But for this tutorial, we're using a low G, so for now we'll just pick both. Pick the open E string followed by the 1st fret of E. And you can either pick both individually or turn it into a hammer-on, whichever one's most comfortable for you. After that, we're going to go into a C5, which is open G, open C, ring finger on the 3rd fret of E, and we're going to completely ignore the A string. We're not going to play that right now. Bring the ring finger to the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to pick that once, followed by the 5th fret. And then we're going to come up to the 7th fret and strum from the C string on down. Back down, and then we're slowly going to walk our way back down the fretboard to the 5th fret. Index finger comes to the 2nd. And now we are going to go into an F chord, but this will look different than your average F chord. Instead, we're going to have our basic F chord shape with the middle finger on the 2nd fret of G and the index finger on the 1st fret of the E, but we're also going to have the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to strum that once. Then we're going to pivot our hand so that the ring finger is dragged down to the 2nd fret of the A. We're going to pick that once and pull off to the open A. And then going to go back into another C5, which we learned just a second ago. Leaving the ring finger there, we're going to pick the A string, the open A. Here's why we left the finger there. Now we're just going to pick that 3rd fret of E again. And then going to strum from the G string down to the E string. So just those top 3. Index finger to the 1st fret of E. And we reach the end of this bar. The next note would just be picking the open G and the 2nd fret of C together. But before we move to bar 2, let's put this one together very slowly. I'll play at a nice even tempo so you can play along. And that last note brought us into bar 2 now, just picking the open G and the 2nd fret of C together. Now remember, this is the low G arrangement. If you're in a high G, you just pick that 2nd fret of C by itself. Moving on, we are going to start very similar to how we did just a second ago, but the timing will be a little bit different with a couple of the notes. So we're going to pick the 3rd fret of the E and pull off to open like we did before. We're going to pick the open G and the open C string together, immediately followed by the open E. Then index finger the first fret E, we're going to pick that once, immediately followed by another C5. And then going to pick the third fret of the A, followed by the fifth fret. And strum down, bringing the ring finger to the seventh fret of A. We're going to strum down from the C. Then we're going to come down and play the fifth fret of A, and immediately followed by the second fret of A. I sometimes turn this into a pull-off when I'm playing this song. It's a little bit of a stretch, so you can definitely just simply come down to it normal. But either way, just going to pick the fifth fret followed by second fret into another F chord. And this is the same version as earlier with the ring finger on the third fret of the A. We're going to pivot the hand again, and so we play the second fret of A, and we can pull off to open into yet another C5. And we're going to pause there before we go into those last few notes, because so far everything we've learned in this second bar is exactly the same as what's in bar 1, but the timing of the notes is very different. And so it can be a little confusing to memorize, because you're memorizing the same exact pattern of notes, but the timing of these notes are a little bit different than the first time around. And so that was the hardest part for me when learning this song, was memorizing just the small differences between the first two bars. But once you've got that, the rest of the song is pretty easy. Alright, let's do those last few notes at the end of measure 8. So we've just played that C5. Now we're going to line up the middle finger on the second fret of the A string. We're going to pick that once. Then we're going to bring the ring finger to the third fret of the A. And now we're going to go into a new chord, and it's going to be the open G string, second fret of the C, index on the first fret of the E, and pinky on the fifth fret of the A. And this chord is relatively tricky compared to the other chords in this song. And so if you want to simplify it, you could just pick fifth fret of A by itself. That's totally fine. Playing the chord will make it sound a little bit more full, but either way is totally fine. Moving on to those last few notes, if we're in this position, we're just going to flatten the middle finger so it's covering the second fret of the C, of the A string, and we're going to pick that once. Ring finger to third fret E, and moving into measure 9, bar 3 now, just going to end on a simple C chord. So before we move on, let's go back up a bit to measure 5 and play that second bar through together very slowly. That brings us to measure 9, the beginning of bar 3. To get the rest of the tutorial and all the tabs, head over to ukeondemand.com and subscribe below so you don't miss our upcoming fingerstyle tutorials. We'll see you next time.